I was a kid who grew up in a middle-class home, pretty modest circumstances during the earliest years of my life. Went to high school here in Palo Alto in the late 1960s. And I remember a buddy of mine trying to put something together called Earth Day. And I remember we all said, what's that? And he said, just help. And we did. And in many ways, that was probably the beginning of my understanding of the larger set of environmental issues that have been a big part of my work over the course of the last many years now. It's always been a part of the work that I've done. It's always been at the top of the to-do list. And frankly, I just think it's part of who we are and what we're about here in the peninsula and the South Bay. If you're determined to make a difference, you can do that from almost any venue. I've been a local school board president, mayor of Palo Alto, county supervisor, state assembly member, and then a state senator, back on the board of supervisors again. Politics and government is a place where if something's wrong, you can make it right. I had the privilege of serving as the chair of the Senate Environmental Quality Committee for 7 years, and probably most gratifying was the work I was able to do on renewable energy. These were nationally recognized standards. We were the most ambitious in our commitment to renewables of any country in the world and any state in the nation. Important in terms of jobs and economic development here in the Valley. And I think it's sound energy policy, frankly, to diversify our energy portfolio with greater and greater amounts of renewable energies. Let's make environmental protection a co-equal goal with water access, and let's make that a matter of law. Let's create a Delta Conservancy to make sure that as we look to the Delta for water, we also look to it as the environmental treasure that it is. If you can do all that, it's a good day's work, and it's something that I think my colleagues and I were justifiably proud of at the time. My first few years in the legislature, some cruise ship off at the coast of the Monterey Bay dumped sewage into the bay, and when they got called on it, they said, well, there's no law against it. And I remember thinking, well, if there isn't a law against it, there ought to be. And of course, now there is. I was able to move a half dozen pieces of legislation over the course of a decade and ultimately prevail upon the federal government to establish a no discharge zone up and down the coast of California. So our entire coast is protected now in that way. And that's the largest no discharge zone, NDZ, anywhere in the country.
There was too much irresponsible, destructive clear cutting and not enough responsible, sustainable logging going on. And we explained some of the issues to Joe. He listened to us, and then he decided to author a bill that required more consideration of cumulative impacts with maps showing what happened where and when.
It was one of those great little bills that had real potential to help us make sure that timber harvesting around the state was done in a more responsible way. Tell us where you've been, tell us where you're going to go, and then tell us where you're headed in the future as well, so that we really could get a big picture, comprehensive look at what the impacts of timber harvesting were in various parts of the state. The club was just what you'd expect. They were in it from beginning to end. They provided grassroots support, and they kept nudging me the way a good club would and should to make sure that we carried the bill through successfully. One of the things that's been gratifying over the years is to see the environmental movement slowly but steadily become part of a larger social justice movement. Years ago, I worked on the coast side over in Half Moon Bay to create affordable farm labor housing. I saw that as an environmental issue. It was absolutely indispensable to the preservation of the coast side as we know it. And I did some of that early work to pull those parcels together and make that possible. And I look back on that as a very satisfying time in my life because it means that we're more likely to hang on to the coast side we love.
In 1994, Bay Area Action moved our offices, and Joe was there for our office warming. I believe he was mayor at the time. And he planted a little redwood tree in front of our office. And I was biking by it the other day, and the tree is now 50 feet tall. And I thought, Joe's leadership on environmental issues has grown in proportion to this tree. He's really one of the great environmental leaders at the city level, at the county level, at the state level.
Joe Simitian has been a real hero for the environment, and he's really listened to the concerns of the Loma Prieta chapter, and he's taken action when it was warranted and gotten things done for us.
I would encourage the next generation of environmental advocates to act with urgency, but take the long view, realize that this is work that can take a lifetime. Don't let that get you down. In fact, what you'll discover is that it's work that will invigorate you over the course of a lifetime. Those of us who are in elected office, we sometimes get to lead the parade, but having partners and allies like the Loma Prieta chapter has made the work possible. So I thank you for the recognition, but more importantly, I thank you for the work, and I thank you for the work I know we're going to do together in the future.